Hello, one and all, and welcome to What Are These? Now, you may have noticed that it's been a little more than a week since the last time I uploaded something, and that stinks. And I'm well aware that it stinks, but coming on back to this, it actually gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about something that will undoubtedly happen to all of us, and that is burnout. Now, for the sake of sort of defining it, it'll help us to look at the difference between what is burnout and what is just a lack of motivation. All right. Now, to give you an example, and I'm going to use Space Marines in this example because why not? All right. Let's say you're at home, you've got an hour free in the evening, and you think to yourself, I'm going to get the base coats done on these Marines. You know, I've got the time, I want to do it, and here's the important part, is that you actually want to get something done. But you get your paints, you get your models, you get your fresh water and your palette all laid out in front of you, and then you pick up the brush and just, you're forcing it. And I think this is a difference between lack of motivation and what we're going to call burnout, in that the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Or flip that around, however you want to look at it. But it is a problem. And it is something that I think we all eventually grapple with. Now, back when I was working with Games Workshop, one of the things that we talked about a fair amount in our store was how to keep people engaged. And I don't mean purely as a means to keep people buying the next product, but what you would find is some places call it churn, customer churn, where someone comes in, they buy a bunch of stuff, you see them for a couple of months, and then they go. And that's not ideal, because you genuinely want people to come in and to stick with you for ages and to enjoy what they're doing. That was a big part of what I actually liked about working in the store I was in. But one of the things we came up with, and see if you agree with this or not, actually painting, the hobby side of things, isn't exciting. It's not in and of itself a massive entertainment. It's not the draw. Finishing something is. So if you've got the urge one day, or it's your birthday or Christmas or what have you, and you go off to your workshop or to a store online or to any place that you can get the miniatures that you want, and you come back with a mountain of metal, plastic, resin, whatever, and you set it down in front of you, it's going to take a month of Sundays to finish. And that's where I think part of the problem comes from, is we want to be doing something where we can have these victories. So burnout to me, it is that long time since a win, let's say. So what can we do about it? Well, luckily, there's a few things you can do. First off, make yourself a cup of tea. Nothing makes the day go faster than a cup of tea. Now, once you've had your cuppa, let's say you're doing a Space Marine army. Again, our example. And you've painted 10 Marines, and frankly, you're just bored of it. Or you've painted 10 Guardsmen, or 20 Skaven, or anything, and you just want to change. One of the ways in which you can easily combat burnout is to change up what you're doing. So rather than trying to force your way through a whole bunch of models that are all identical, reward yourself every now and then. Swap on in for a character model or a vehicle or something, and just switch what you're doing. Even a whole new game system, or just something totally random. And I'm going to touch on Gaslands really quickly for this reason. It is played with Matchbox cars. It's a post-apocalyptic racing game where you can smash into one another, shoot one another to bits. It's a lot of fun. Imagine X-Wing templates with Matchbox cars. But it's a great palette cleanser, because instead suddenly you're just bashing on some paint and having a laugh. All right? And that, I think, is what we need on occasion. Switch things up, have a win, finish something. All right? Now, another thing I've seen as well as one way to combat that sense of burnout is break things up into chunks. All right? When I talk about getting a victory and finishing something, look at your squads. Don't look at, I haven't finished this army yet, But break it down. Break it down into squads, 5-man teams. And I'll flip this around in a minute. I'll show you a couple of things that I've been doing recently just to get my arm back in. Anything that you can do to compartmentalize something, break it down into a smaller chunk and finish it, you're going to have a win. And you will feel better for that. I promise you that. The important thing though, and this is probably the bit that we find the hardest to do sometimes. If you're not feeling it, walk away. If you're not in the mood to paint and you pick up the brush and you're going at it, every time the brush doesn't do what you want, any paint spatter that goes where you didn't want it to go, any little problem that would ordinarily be just a really quick and simple fix will become this insurmountable wall and you will resent it. And that's not healthy. That's not good for what you're doing. So the third step away from what you're doing. Do something else. Play a video game. Read a book. You don't even have to take yourself out of your hobby to do that. Recently I've been reading a book called Pacific Star, which is about the New Zealand contribution to the Pacific Theatre of World War II, which I didn't know very much about. I'm painting American figures at the moment, but it was still interesting to me, and it kept my head in the game, in that space. And I think that's something that's not too hard to do, particularly with the wealth of Games Workshop games, real-time strategy games. If you're into historical era stuff, then Field of Glory, just as a random recommendation, Field of Glory on PC is quite a lot of fun. But yeah, do something else for a while. All right? In all seriousness, it will help you a lot. And then finally, one other thing I know of, which helps me, is go onto YouTube and watch videos. Okay, look at what people are doing. I really love seeing what people are doing with their hobby. I get gassed up by it. When someone starts talking passionately about what they're putting together, the reasoning behind the project, if they've got a lore thing that's bubbling away in their head, and you can feel it straining to get out of them, and they want to tell this story, that's magic, all right? That is just hobby crack. That'll help you like nobody's business. Now, I normally feel a little bit funny about recommending other channels because when I say, hey, you should go and check out this person, it can feel to me like I'm then not saying, check out all the other 100 or so cool people that are out there too. So what I want to do is, you'll notice on the front page of my channel at the moment, there's a little recommended bar down the right-hand side of the page. And in there is just a bunch of stuff, channels that I've found that are really cool. All right. If there's anything that I'm missing, feel free to drop your favorites down into the comments. I'm really keen to see people sharing what gets them excited. What gets you gassed up. I strenuously recommend go check out some YouTube stuff because there's a lot of great content there. Now, Burnout is an insidious sensation because we don't always recognize it coming. And it can be the death of a project. And that sucks. It just straight sucks to have something fall off your radar. And it's not always because you don't love it. It's not because you haven't got the time. It's just somehow it becomes this block in your head. It becomes an obligation that instead of something to work towards and finish, it's a challenge. And, on that note, I do want to apologize for leaving you guys hanging as long as I have, because in that same vein, coming back and doing these simple little videos where I just paint some toy soldiers has gotten more difficult. The longer you leave it, the harder it gets. And that's not fair on you guys. Now, nobody has done or said anything to put that on me, to make this feel like an obligation. But that's just how your brain works sometimes. And getting over that burnout, what a pain in the butt. So I'm going to flip this around. We're going to get a look at some stuff that I've been doing. And you can see just how I've been relaxing, basically. Tomorrow I am going to do something just for myself. I'm going to put up a video where I pick a random miniature off my to-do list and I'm just going to paint it. So, not getting straight back into the swing of things, but I beg your indulgence. We'll just have a bit of fun, alright? So, let's swing this around, get a look at some toys. So, over the last week, I've had a bit of fun just painting whatever came to mind. And one note here, you'll notice there are a lot of Americans. Now the reason for this, my other half and I, we celebrate 2 anniversaries. One is our wedding anniversary and the other is when we first got together. And by coincidence that happens to fall on D-Day. So in this case I've got a couple of different examples. I need to finish off these are the metal figures from Black Tree. Black Tree Designs have recently dropped the prices on all of their products from, what do they say, 15 to 45% or something crazy like that. They can take a little while to deliver, but when they do, these are actually excellent figures. I'll get a closer look. You know, they've got a lot of character. The webbing in particular, they've got so much going on with them. They're a lot of fun. I really like these guys. So Black Tree, do check them out if that's what you fancy. They do a huge range of other World War II figures, as well as fantasy, Doctor Who, a bunch of stuff. On that subject, though, this is one of Warlord Games, their new US plastic infantry. And I was experimenting a little with painting new ways of skin, so it was quite fun. I enjoyed doing this guy too. Now, the real star of the show is this bunch of Kaos Cultists here, because I decided I was going to have a go at my old speed painting shtick again. That always helps me, you know, chill out, have some fun. These 5 guys were painted, total painting time, about an hour. Alright, that includes getting their bases on. We're going to ignore drying time, of course. Now you'll notice straight away that they aren't the most fantastic. You know, these guys aren't designed to win any awards. They're a single colour, which has then had a wash and 1 highlight, and that's it. Okay, real quick and simple. I cannot stress enough how easy these guys are to do. So I'm probably going to end up doing a video on these fellas because these cultists are actually a lot of fun. The miniatures themselves are just loaded with character and you can do a fair bit with them. But really, as far as palette cleansers go, these are some cool guys and they cost you nothing. You know, these are quite a cheap little box, 5 guys in a kit. Go for them. And then Gaslands. I mentioned that one, and I've just had a laugh, you know, getting these Matchbox cars and gluing stupid nonsense to them. I don't have a drill, so I can't get the rivets out and split them properly and all that carry on. So my conversions are mostly what I can stick to the car. And there's the old Trabant, which I've since had pointed out to me actually had a plastic body, so the rust panels, unfortunately, are not accurate, but oh well. I love how the stupid thing looks. But that's just a quick rundown. What I've been doing. How is it I've helped myself to get out of that rut? And it is just by painting some stuff, getting some wins, you know, having a bit of fun and doing something that I'm either really, really familiar with or something exciting and new. All right, so if you guys have got any suggestions, you remember a time that you were really bogged down and you just didn't feel like painting, any solutions, any suggestions, feel free to drop them in the comments, guys. I would love to hear them, and I think there'll be a lot of other people out there too who'll benefit from hearing it. So, like always, you can get in touch. It's about time I answered some comments, by the by. Like I said, tomorrow I'm going to paint something completely random. I might even do one of these cultists, just for the sake of showing off how simple it is. But until then, guys, keep on keeping on, and you enjoy the rest of your day.